Hey guys, it's Nikolai Pavlov and I'm back with some Power BI tips. Today we'll continue learning about the Dax Calculate function. And as I said before, calculate is one of the most powerful functions in Dax, and you'll be using it all the time, like literally all the time. The function has two parts, where the first part is the expression and a number of filters. The expression could be another function, or it could be an already existing measure. There are so many different ways to use calculate in Power BI. Depending on a task at hand, you might want to put other DAX functions inside the calculate function in a nesting type of formula. Two common functions that you put inside the calculate are the all and filter functions. And today we're going to look at both of these functions inside the calculate and see how they can help us to solve, some business tasks we might commonly encounter. So here in Power BI, I have the same data set that I used in my last two videos with the cars and cities in Vancouver and Calgary. So I'm just going to keep using the same data. All right, let's do some analysis here, right? Well, first of all, let's find out revenues. We have the columns price and quantity, and using these two columns, we could find out revenues and the sum of revenues. Let's create a measure. And we're going to call it sales. Make it a little bit bigger. And here we're going to use the function SUMX, which we looked in my last video. So the function has two parameters. First is the table. So we only have one table, so we indicate the table. And then the expression inside the table will be multiplying the price column by quantity column. Okay? So now we have our first measure. Let's put it in a table to have a visual. Let's put that in. We can do car type. Make it a little bit bigger. We could even format it correctly. We could make it a United States dollars, and it all looks nice and tidy. Okay. Now let's say your CFO says that he or she wants to see the percentage of sales for each type of car that your company sold. So to find that out, you would want to divide the sales of different car types by the total amount of sales, right? We already have the measure for sales of each car, but we also need to have another calculation for the total of sales. Then we could divide one measure by another and get the percentage. So for this, I'm going to create a measure using the function all inside the calculate function. All right, let's do that. New measure. And we're going to name it all total sales, for example. So we're going to be using the calculate function. And then the expression inside of it will be my measure, sales, which I already have. Okay? Now let's think about this. What can I put as a filter here? So in my table, I can see the total of sales without getting filtered. If I left this measure like in this way, right? If I left this measure this way, and I put it here, then I'll have the same number here. It doesn't make sense, right? I have to put something in the filter, so this number 6,835,000 will be everywhere and will not be filtered. To do this, I'm going to use the function all inside the calculate measure. Sorry, inside the calculate function. So what I'm going to do is here I will put all. The description of a function says that it returns all the rows in the table, ignoring any filters that might have been applied. And in our case, the filters are the car types. The function all has two functions, right? Table name. So I'm just going to use the sales table. Exactly, that's it. Simple as that. Now, the function all serves as the filter of the calculate function. And when I commit and create this filter, now we can see that I have the totals and they're not filtered. By itself, this new measure doesn't make any sense, because why would you want to even have it on your table, right? The totals are already there, right? However, this measure will serve us as an intermediary measure for our further calculations, because now I have these two measures and then I can just divide one by another. For BMW, for example, I could divide this 2 million number by this number and then do that for all the cars, and then I will get percentages. So let's do that. We're going to create new measure and name it percentage of sales. Here you can use the function divide, right, where it has two parameters. You put numerator, which will be sales measure, and then denominator would be the second measure, all total sales. Okay, we're going to put it in the table and format it as percentage, right? The second way you could do this is simply divide measures one by another, where you'd have a sales measure and divided by all total sales. You'll have the same figures, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can use whichever you want. And now we could actually remove all total sales measure because we don't need it in the table here. All right, we have sales and the percentage of sales. Now your next task, let's say your CFO says that he wants to know how many times this summer your company made more than, let's say $200,000 in revenue. So one way, the easy way, would be to create a calculated column for revenues, like we did before, where we multiply price by quantity, right? So we create an extra column, then we create a new measure, which we're gonna name number of days over 200K calculated column. So we're going to use the function calculate. Expression will be count, because we're going to be counting days, right? We're actually going to be counting transactions here. And filter would be revenue over 200,000. All right. We will close that and then put that measure in the table. We could see that there were 7 days during which we made more than $200,000. We could actually check that easily. We could put revenue here and greater than 200,000. We can see that there were 7 different days. Okay. So this is one way, and this way is actually not a preferred way, because we don't want to inflate our data model. We want to keep the file the same size. So we don't want to do that. We're going to use measures. We're going to use Dax to create measures to avoid creating extra columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this column here. and I'm going to show you the different way. Since I don't have my column revenue anymore, but I have to put some filter in here, right? In my calculate function. What I'm going to do is I am going to use the function filter. So filter, it has two parameters, table and filter expression. Table is easy. We indicate our table, sales table. The filter expression will be sales, measure sales, right? Over 200,000. All right. Now we can. Do we need one more? No, that's it, right? No, we're closing filter. One more bracket here. There we go. And now we have the same number. You see? So as you can see, using the all and filter functions inside the calculate function, we first of all avoided creating an extra calculated column. And second of all, actually we made some interesting real life analysis. In the first case, we created all total sales measure, right? Using the all function here. We needed this measure as the intermediary measure so we could divide one measure by another to find out the percentage of sales, which we did. Then we used the filter function inside the calculate to find out the number of days in which our revenue was over $200,000. And as you can see, Dax provides you with a lot of interesting tools to make really interesting analysis in Power BI. These two Dax functions, right, depending on business tasks, whatever you got to do, you can combine different Dax functions and put them inside the calculate function to really dig deeper and find some interesting insights in your calculations. All right, hopefully you guys liked my video and you'll learn how to use all, filter, and calculate functions in Dax, and I'll see you next week for some more Dax. Talk to you later.